Should marijuana be legal? I say yes. And I'm your host, Killer813, coming back with AcidTab Studios. Today's topic is weed, as you can tell. And whether or not it should be legal. I think yes, it should be legal. I have a few reasons. First one is I think it can help a lot of people. Like, a lot of people. People who have chronic pain. I know my dad has chronic pain. He gets migraines and he injured his back in the military, so yeah, that's not good, but he doesn't smoke. But anyways, you can help people like him who have a lot of pain. You can help people with eating disorders like anorexia to help them eat. It can help people with cancer. I've actually seen online somewhere someone who had melanoma, so skin cancer, and they ended up having a big ass hole in their arm, like probably about that big, like right here on their forearm, and it went down and you could see the bone. That's how bad the cancer was. This guy, he had that big ass hole. He decided, I'm gonna fucking smoke weed. So he did. He smoked some pot, and I think it was like after 6 months, and it showed the progression. And after each month, it was getting better and better and better. And after 6 months, it was just a scar. It was completely healed, but it was left like a scar. That's pretty sweet. Like, it can help people with cancer. Because now I don't know a lot about it, because it is kind of a more recent study that's been done, but people do say that it can slow down and even stop tumors from spreading, and even kill cancer in some cases. So that's pretty awesome. And also it can help people like me who have mental disorders or conditions. People with, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, things like that. Myself, I have depression. I suffer from suicidal depression. Well, I used to be suicidal, not so much anymore, now that I'm starting to gain people in my life who I love, and of course I've been on medication, so that is helping, and smoking weed, of course, helps a lot. So, yeah, it can definitely help me, and it has helped me. I can honestly say weed has saved my life. There's been times, not so much like now, but a while ago, I started smoking weed, and I found that when I started smoking, it instantly improved my life. I found, like, before I started smoking, I found I was really shy. I was kind of an introvert. I didn't really talk to people. I didn't really like people, to be honest. I started smoking weed, and I instantly became more social. Even when I was sober, I was more social. I was talking to people, and I was better at talking to people than I was before. I've made so many friends within the past, 2 months who don't even smoke weed. But I'm still friends with them, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just, the whole weed culture. I don't know why, but I found that even when I'm sober now, I'm a lot more social than I was before I started smoking, and a lot happier, to be honest. My life is going pretty good, even though I do suffer from depression. I still have to admit, I do have a pretty good life. But having said that, I still do get, the occasional bad days. And when I get bad days, I mean, bad days where, I find there's just some days where the depression just really hits me hard for no reason whatsoever. And I get really anxious, and in some cases I even get suicidal thoughts. I hate to take it to a slightly depressing side of me, but I'm just, giving an example of how we can help. But anyways, I've had those days where I've just been so down, so depressed, where I didn't even come out of my room. I remember there's been days where I faked being sick, just so that I could stay home, and I wouldn't even leave my room the whole day. I would stay home from school. I remember I've called in sick to work before because I've been depressed and not able to get out of bed. And there's been a few times where I faked being sick so I could stay home from school just so that I could have a good time to kill myself. I know it sounds really depressing, but it is true. I've attempted suicide a few times, which this will lead to a different story that I'll get into later. But when I started smoking weed, now that I've started, when I do have those bad days and I am depressed and I do stay in bed and I think I'm gonna, kill myself, I just think, maybe I should just smoke weed one more time before I die. I end up smoking a little dope, and instantly everything is forgotten about. I mean, everything. Life just suddenly becomes awesome. And I remember even saying that out loud, like, if I'm with friends or by myself, I think, like, man, life is pretty great right now. I mean, you just can't be mad or upset while you're high. It's just not possible, And I think this, the power of THC can help a lot of people like me who have anxiety and depression and who are in some cases suicidal. Because you smoke weed and it's like you forget it all. And then when you're sober again, you're still thinking like, what was I even mad about? I don't even remember. Like, and it just makes for an awesome day, right? You're smoking weed, you forget about all your problems. It's pretty good. So I think that's a good reason why weed should be legal. It can save lives. Another reason is the economy. If weed were to become legalized, I mean, the Canadian government isn't stupid. They're not, well, some people are, like Stephen Harper, if you know who he is. He's kind of a dumbass, but, he, for the most part, most Canadian politicians aren't complete dumb fucks. Okay, like, they're not going to legalize weed and then just still let you buy it off of some sketchy ass drug dealer in a fucking back alley. Like, no, they're not gonna do that. They're gonna want some of the action too, right? Partially because of money, and partially because it's a lot safer if you were to buy it from the government. So what the government would do, and they've already done this in Colorado, Washington, and some other countries, Uruguay, I believe, has done this. They're gonna set up, their own shop for weed. I believe they call them dispensaries. They're gonna, grow, regulate, and sell weed. And that is going to boost the economy a lot. Like, a lot. Because, I mean, if you think about it, people are gonna smoke weed either way. Whether it's legal or not, people are still going to smoke dope. But making it legal and selling it, I mean, they're going to go to the government to buy it. Especially if the government sells it fairly cheap at like a reasonable price, which I hope they will. It'd be smart if they did. Because why would you pay $20 a gram when you could get it from some guy for 10, right? I feel as though also because it's coming straight from the source, it's not being like, sold to other people before you get it yourself. You know what I mean? Like if you have one dealer who's selling to this guy and this guy's going to sell it to this guy and then that guy's going to sell it to you, each time they sell it, they're going to raise the price, right? Because everyone wants to make a profit. But the government, if they're growing it and they're selling it themselves, they're not buying it from some dumbass. They're buying it, they're getting it from their own source. So it's not going to be as expensive for them to produce it. I mean, I don't know if this is true, but this is my thinking, right? I feel as though it shouldn't be as expensive as to buy it off the street. And if that's the case, people aren't going to go and buy it off the street if it's like a reasonably good price. They're going to go to the government and get it for a good price. Right? Makes sense to me. And that's going to make a lot of money for the government. Like, a lot. And think of the jobs it'll make, because you're going to need people who are going to be growing it, people who are going to be regulating it, people who are going to be selling it. They're going to need doctors who are experts with this, you know, to make sure that what they're doing is safe, which it will be, but of course, I think they need doctors to inform people about it, you know, and I think they should at least be informed before smoking weed. That's my opinion. But anyways, back to the real topic. It's going to make a lot of money for the government and create a lot of jobs. A lot. The economy is going to be boosted way up, and that's good. Very, very, very good. Now, to talk about some of the topics, like, you know, or to counter, I don't know what the word is, but, you know, a lot of people are against weed being legalized because they feel as though, I don't know, there's different reasons. I hear people saying, like, because they don't want people to be stoned 24/7. But, I mean, I think of it as though it's similar to alcohol, right? I mean, people are gonna smoke dope. It's a given. And you can, unlike alcohol, you can still function while you're high, right? You can't really function in a normal society while you're drunk. But when you're high, you can still keep it together and, you know, go to your job, do whatever you gotta do, get that shit done, and then go back home and, you know, whatever. Relax, you know? It's not like being drunk. If you're drunk, you're fucked up. So I don't think it's really unsafe. Of course, they're not going to sell it to minors. There's going to be rules, just like there is alcohol. You know, legal drinking age in Canada is 19, 18 in some provinces, but 19 for the most part. And it's probably going to be the same for weed. You know, 18 to 20, somewhere in there, right? They're not going to sell it to teenagers and kids. That's just not smart, to be honest. And people are worried, like, oh, I don't want to get into a taxi where the driver's stoned. Well, no, me either. But I mean, they sell alcohol, right? And you can't drive well, I mean, you can, but not well while you're drunk, just as though you can't drive well while you're high. It's the same thing, right? They're not going to let you drive while you're stoned. Just like alcohol, you know, there's rules that you can drink, but there's rules that go along with it, and they're going to have the same thing for weed. So is it unsafe? Potentially, but they're going to make rules, and they're going to enforce the rules, right? You know, you can't drink or drink and drive. You can't be high while you're driving, you know, shit like that. Of course, minors won't be allowed to have it, or at least buy it, just like with alcohol. And I think that's like the main reason why people don't want it to be legalized. I also think that a lot of people who don't want it legalized are older people who grew up in a generation where, I mean, not older as in like 60s, kind of old. Because those people grew up in the 60s and 70s, right? Like, everyone smoked pot back then. But I mean, like, kind of like my parents' generation, like 30s and 40s. I think that the main reason why they don't want it to be legalized is because they kind of have a biased opinion. And I've actually talked about this with my parents, and they actually agree that they do have a biased opinion, because they grew up in a generation where weed was frowned upon. It wasn't as socially acceptable as it is now, right? So it's kind of a biased opinion. They just think that, oh, because it's a drug and I've always been taught that it's bad to do drugs, I shouldn't smoke pot, and it's a bad thing. But I mean, how many deaths a year does alcohol cause? Like alcohol poisoning? A lot. How many deaths a year do prescription drugs account for? A lot. How many deaths have you, or how many people have you ever heard of overdosing on weed? Zero. Exactly. It's not possible. You can't overdose from weed. I actually read a study, and it was like you had to smoke like, I think it was like 500 ounces or pounds within a span of 15 minutes in order to overdose. That's virtually impossible. There's no chance in hell you can smoke that much in 15 minutes. No matter who the hell you are. It's not happening ever. Sorry, I got a bit of a cough. But yeah, and I mean, it's kind of getting a little bit off topic, but I'm just trying to make a point that people who don't want it to be legalized just think that it's not safe. I'm trying to make a point that it is safe. There's not really any harm you can really do. I've been smoking for a while, and I've never been in danger from smoking. I've never been in danger. I've the weed itself has never caused me to feel sick or to have any kind of near-death experience or anything like that. And I've been really high before, but I've never done something stupid while I was high that could potentially hurt me or anyone else. It's not likely, right? You can still keep it together and still keep your kind of mindset straight while you're high. So, anyways, I don't think there's much else to talk about, really. That's probably it. I don't know, leave your opinions down in the comments. I apologize for a slightly longer video, but just trying to get my point across. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.